Today we're going to tie us a really nice streamer, an articulated streamer, meaning two hooks and a wire holding the back hook to the front hook, which is going to allow the back hook to really have a lot of movement. So we're going to tie this fly. This is a incredible trout streamer. It's been one of my most productive, but this will work for about any creature. It would work for redfish, snook, bass, pretty much everything. So let's get tying. First, it's all about, and one of the reasons I started tying my own flies is getting quality hooks. If you're buying, I don't care if it's the very best fly, if it's getting made overseas, I can almost guarantee you it's on a very poor hook. So if you're getting serious about fly fishing, tying your own flies is something that you really want to look into. Not necessarily for the artistry of it, even though that's what I really enjoy, but really just because the quality of the hook. I mean, you spend so much time, so much effort getting to a fishing spot, how much you're spending on gear, all this stuff, and to have a hook fail, which I have seen numerous times, it's kind of frustrating. So this is a Umpqua special use hook size 10. I found out that it's a very good trailer hook. It hooks up a lot and it doesn't foul and it doesn't get too heavy. So, and it still gets the size. So this isn't actually a size 10 hook, and it's a great hook, Umpqua special use hook. I actually got turned on to this hook um, as a bass hook, a size 2, and then I found it in smaller sizes, and let me tell you, it's just a phenomenal hook. And whenever I tie these big streamers, I know there are other very good thread companies, but I'm always going to use a GSP 100D. I know that Semperfli makes a good nano silk. I would love to try it, but this has just been so good for me that I haven't gone away from it. So I'm just putting down a good thread base right here. And this is kind of like the tail, the back third of the fly. So um, I hadn't decided if I was going to use black and olive marabou, or if I was just going to use this green. This it's a marabou. It's an olive brown, which I have found is the very best olive. Um, it actually looks olive in the water, so it's probably my favorite. Like I said, so I'm just gonna and as you guys know, as you guys get into this, you know, getting quality marabou or quality anything is 90% of this. If you don't have quality materials, quality fibers, it's going to be hard to tie a quality fly. So, and if you watch any Kelly Gallup videos, you'll learn that really quick. And he goes through a lot of stuff how to select. And but what I'm doing is I'm just going to look for the tallest feather, and I'm going to cut it off about right there. And then to make sure you don't foul, which means your marabou, your fibers wrapping around your hook shank. To make sure that doesn't happen, we're just gonna go down here and snip this. So we're looking for that main shaft of the feather. So then I'm just gonna push this up, and I'm gonna get to a point where, and this is, you know, to be honest, I would say about 75% of the time I'm end up using um, two pieces of marabou. It just all depends. But then again, I don't want too much. Like, I'm not trying to make this tail really thick. I want it to be wispy. I want it to move very easily in current in water. So that one actually looks, well, no, it doesn't. We're going to throw 2 on here. I always want good tails. But on the second one, I might go and find maybe a little bit, not as huge of one. And again, I'm going to make sure I get this main, I don't know what else to call it except for a shaft. We're just going to cut that off right there. And again, I'm just going to, now I'm going to put it on this side. And now I have found that as you work with marabou, you're going to see that there's different types of marabou. Um, my favorite is the really stringy stuff. So if I'm going to use a tail, it's not always got to be blood quills like this. Um, you know, MFC does a really good job of making really wispy ones like this barred. But again, those two packages, although it's both marabou, they act different. So just, you can't just say, hey, use this much or a pinch, or, you know, you just got to figure out how much you need depending on the marabou you're using. So I just kind of pinch this down and I'm just going to wrap forward. And it doesn't have to be incredible, just needs to catch it. And uh, you guys are going to hear a lot of Kelly Gallup references because the guy taught me a lot. But so what I do is, because I travel with all my stuff, is I just keep it in the package, cut a little hole up here, and I'll come out and I'll just grab two pieces of fiber. You can actually grab three if you want. I personally like to only have two. Sometimes I'll tie in three and cut one out just to make sure they're in the perfect location. So if I grab three on accident, sometimes I'll just do it. But what I have found works the best for me is I like to come just forward a little bit and then just wrap straight down on top of the hook shank. And then when I get about halfway, I'll just grab them and pull them straight back. Now you'll notice this is on top of the hook shank. Don't let it get below. If you let it get below there, then what ends up happening is it ends up looking like seaweed on the fly. And that's something I learned from Bob Popovich. And if you haven't read his book, you need to, because it'll teach you more about tying flies. And it's just not big streamers. It's taught me how to tie dry flies, everything. So there we go. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab me two materials. And I'm going to get two different feathers. I'm going to get me a really skinny, well, not doesn't have to be skinny, but just a nice one for the back. Like that one's going to be a great one for the front. So we're going to harvest you for the, I guess he's already been harvested. So we're going to go there, and then more of a skinny one for the back. Doesn't have to be super long. That's kind of thick there. Ooh, I see one. Ooh, that's a nice one for the back. That one's a little short. Let's find a good one for the back. That'll do. Okay, so if you'll see, this one has longer fibers than this one. Not a lot, but it is. It matters. Okay, so now that I got that guy, get the marabou out of the way. We're going to use, which I think is one of my favorite materials to work with since I've used it and known how to use it, realized how to use it, is UV polar chenille. This is great stuff. So I'm just going to kind of pull it back, tie that bad boy in there. Boop, almost grabbed my big one. Now we're going to grab this. And we always want this part, the front of the feather, to be facing forward. So if you just wrap it, ooh, spin your bobbin just a little bit. And we're going counterclockwise. And that's going to make my thread wrap straight over top of it. And I'm just doing it right at a 90-degree angle. It doesn't have to be wrapped down too hard. And then I'm just going to wrap this forward. And you can cut that off if you want. I tend to not cut it off. Unless it annoys me, which it's doing. And then I'm just going to take me a tiny, tiny bit of glue. Super glue. This stuff. The professional. This is the only stuff I'll use personally. And I'm just putting a little bit of, just a touch of glue right there. And that's going to do a couple things. It's going to make our fly tougher, but it also ensures that this, the flash in the back won't move. It'll stay there, guarantee it. So I made a mistake. I actually tied these in reverse. This is supposed to go in first and this go on top. That's okay. It's not going to matter. And we're just going to wrap this forward. And you can find, if you look at it, you can see, like, see how it's laying back down? That's why I tied in this side opposed to this side. And if you ever need to spin it, just spin it so that everything is wrapping back. Okay? We want everything going either back or up. And just keep doing this. And this particular color is olive, which means just the thread, instead of being white, it's olive. So it just adds to the whole olive scheme. And I'm going to tie it right to the hook eye. Two. Thank you. Now what I like to do here is, this isn't necessary, I feel like it just makes it look more natural, is I kind of cut some taper into it. I just kind of trim it up a little bit. I don't want this being too long. I want it being over the hook eye. And we're just adding that natural taper into it. And then we're going to grab our hackle, and we're going to start wrapping forward. And as we get closer, it's going to get a little, your fibers are going to get longer, which is good. And now wrap that down 3 times. There we go. And I'm just going to put just a little bit of a thread base there. And that's actually perfect. Now we're going to come in with these legs. I don't know why, but I really like these legs. You can choose, and that's what's cool, is you can tie this fly in numerous different patterns. You can use legs, you cannot use legs. I don't know why, but I like these legs. They're like a copper, but they got gold flash on one side and red on the other. So I feel like that just adds a little bit of, just adds a little something. And now I've decided to do two on each side. And I really want these things, like, I want to almost pull them straight back. And just like the flash on the tail, we want this above or even or above the hook shank. So we don't want to start wrapping it below, because again, it starts to look like you got grass or seaweed, or it doesn't look natural, which I feel like, whew. All right, so again, I'm going to do 2. I'm going to put it right up next to that eye, right behind that eye. I'll pull it back. and just wrap gently over it a couple times while pulling up. And the great things about rubber legs, and this is probably why I put them in a lot, is because you can just cut them off if you want. If you don't like them, they're not moving right, just cut it off. 2, 3, and 4. And again, you pull too hard, sometimes I've seen where these get, they get cut. Now I'm just going to cut these all a little bit different lengths. And most of the time, I'll be honest, I only put one rubber leg doubled up, so it's like 2. I don't know why I decided just to do 4 on this one. It all depends on how I'm feeling, I guess. But you want to cut those a little bit different lengths. You don't want them all stopping at the exact same length. So as you can see, they're all little lengths, different lengths there. And on this one, they're all a little bit different lengths, so that's good. So we don't need to make this too bulky. And I'm only going to do 1. I guess I did 4 turns. Whip finish there. And the reason why is because I'm going to come in here with Solares. Oop, that's the black. The black is in a white bottle, and the white is in a black bottle. So we're just going to wrap around our threads right there. You don't need to add too much. Alrighty. Now I like to keep that spinning just to kind of make sure it goes the right way. And then pull those bad boys back. There she is. And what's good about these small silicone legs, is it's not like a shrimp pattern where they're splaying out. It really gets, as you strip it, it becomes part of the fish and just kind of fills in, gives a little more deviation, which I feel like is more natural. So we can do anything we want here. You can use a size 1 front hook. I think I'm going to use a size 2 on this one. Just kind of feels right. Yep. This is kind of a lighter of the big streamer variety. And so I've already picked out eyes for this bad boy, but that's not what we're doing. Okay. Let's see here. All right. So I'm going to use 30-pound wire. You can use 25. I just like 30. This stuff never, ever has failed on me. Just steel wire. So first, we're just going to do our thread base. Oops. And on this one, I like to wrap down around the bend just a touch, because when we put this wire down and our ball sits against it, I don't want it on something slick like this hook shank. Get around that eye just a little bit, and then we're golden. Leaving it right there, right in the middle. And this is just a lot of kind of prep work to tie this fly, but it's pretty easy. And it's extremely productive. And a lot of people say that these are hard to throw. No, they're not. You just gotta know how to throw a fly rod. And I say that like jokingly, but also serious. Like if you're getting into fly fishing, really take your time and invest in getting your technique correct. Because to be able to throw the biggest and best flies, sometimes you need a weighted line, but then also just your form is everything. So if I can find everything on this. All right. So I think the right decision is just one big 3D bead right here. I know some people like to use two. It just doesn't, for me, it doesn't work as well. I feel like it gets a little too spaced out. The natural body is not the same, and it doesn't do as well. That's just my experience. Um, I have far better success just with one bead. So we're going to put this bad boy right back through. And I'll just kind of put a nice little easy turn right there, just to kind of make sure it's perfect. And now what I want is, what I'm looking for is I want this tight on this bead. I want it to fall right where that thread is. And I want this to have easy movement. So I might take just a hair of it out of it. And that looks good. And I'm just going to wrap back, kind of pulling up so this gets right on top of the shank. Okay, so tight and loose. That's what we're looking for. Now, and then what that's going to do is it's going to keep this behind it. It's not going to let it fly up here. It's going to keep it behind it. And so you don't foul up. And also when a fish comes up and hits it, usually it won't come up here and catch. It'll stay nice. And so I've had it numerous times where the fish didn't get it on the first one. They missed it. They hit it hard. But if it stays looking right, they'll come back and hit it again. So I want both of my wires just to be right behind my hook eye. And the reason being is I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to have my wires going under. And I'll show you guys why. Because I'm about to put this well, if I can find it. What do I do with it? Oh, there it is. I'm about to put this red eye on it. Ooh. Trying to think exactly where I want it. So I want to end up being about right there. So I'm going to start back just a hair. I'll start just wrapping it tight. I'm going to twist it over there. And now I'm just going to figure eight that bad boy in there. And the reason this wire is down there is it holds it, so it doesn't want to spin constantly. Oh, a little too tight there. It's all right. All right, now after I cut off this other one, we're going to come through here with that good super glue again. And now I'm really going to wrench down on it. The reason that thread cut right there is it hit the end of the wire, which is fine, no big deal. But I want that down tight, and this isn't going anywhere. Now, big thing, you want this on the bottom of your hook. That's going to make sure that it falls right and it stays correctly. If you put it on here, on top of the shank, it's going to swim upside down with the hooks up, which there's times for that. This ain't it though. All right. Now, when I go look for this second piece of marabou, or I guess the third piece of marabou, but on the second hook, back here I want stringy. Up here, I'm going to look for a little bit more fibrous material. Something like that. That's perfect. Where it's just a little thicker, a little more barbish like fibers. And what that's going to do is it's going to add a lot more bulk. And so I want this to be like the shoulders, right? So we want some, and that's what Bob Popovich talks about, is really making the taper of the fly. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go right to the edge right here, and I'm just going to make sure this is even. Take a straight edge. This one's old. That side's not. And again, same principle applies as the first time. Like, I want this to go around pretty much the whole entire shank. So if I need to use two pieces, use two pieces. A big piece and a small piece, two equal pieces, doesn't matter. Just make sure that you're getting all the way around that hook. And see how I just got a little bit right here on your guys' side? So I'm just going to go after another little piece. I saw one. That's a good piece. Again, the same thing. I'm just getting my ends kind of the same. And now that's a much smaller piece just because I needed to only fill that real gap right there. A garbage pile. And then same thing. We're going to get our Flashabou. And we're going to get us two pieces. When I first got into fly tying, I thought, they don't add enough flash. I learned really quick. More flash isn't always a good thing. Alrighty. Same thing as we did on the first part, the tail. And we're going to cut it the same length as our marabou. Doesn't need to be super long right here. Matter of fact, we don't want it long. Okay. Now we're going to do this actually right this time, which I'm going to grab spin it counterclockwise. Make sure it's right there. Go right on top of it. There she blows. Now we're going to find which way's pointing down, which is this side. We're going to find the stuff there. The thread. Same thing. Go all the way back to our marabou. Wrap it forward. I just always make my taper a little more natural. And we're just going to bring this right behind that eye. Again. All right, so just wrapping a little bit of little glue there just to keep everything strong and intact. And now we're just going to put our chenille base, you could call it. And just pull it up. And what's good is that little thin bit of glue is just going to hold this there really, really good. That's another reason you don't want the fibers to go down or get trapped. I mean, some are going to get trapped, right? Like you're not going to get them all. But it holds it tight there. Okay, right behind the eyes. There we go. Now I'm not going to cut this. I'm going to leave these long. Now we're going to come in here with a and you know what? You're going to trap some. All right. Now on this particular, one of the reasons I chose this exact one is this marabou-like material here on this, like a mini schlappen, I guess you'd call it. I use it all. And so I'm going to wrap the whole thing essentially around it. And then I'll catch it right where it starts to change colors from being dyed. Kind of pull all my fibers back. Okay. Going back, we're getting our legs. I'm going to grab, just because this is a thin silicone, I'm going to grab 2. Put them right behind that eye. Pull up. We're already wrapped down. Wrap right to there. Bam. And on the second one, we're going to grab it. Again, same thing. Just pull it into that, behind that eye. Okay. Now here's the fun part. I actually don't like this Sculpting wool olive very much, but there's other wools I like better. But It's not the right color. So what I do is I'm just gonna kind of move this around. It's really easy to use too much of this stuff. There's places where it doesn't matter if you use too much, and there are places where you don't want to use too much. In the back, where we're not going to cut it all off, you don't want to use too much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double this up. I'm going to wrap it all around the eyes. I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom. I'm going to wrap two kind of thinner layers. And on this back piece, I kind of want to be able to, and I'm going to do this once I get them all tied in, is to kind of pull, and just so that all the fibers don't end in the same place. I'm going to put that down there. Oh crap, where's the other piece? Oh, there it is. Oh, kind of messed that up. I'm going to spread out along the shank. And as you guys notice, I'm sure you've seen some other flies where this fiber looks like it's just on top or bottom, like these a bruiser blend, where they just put it on top or bottom. I like the wool because you can really just spread it out and put it all around. And what I'll do is I'll actually pull, since there's two, I'll pull one to one way and one to the other way. Pull them all back. I like to pull it really good and down right there. Now you can be a little more liberal with your wool. It's not going to matter very much because we're just going to cut it all out. And some people will say, oh, I don't like to use wool because it gets heavy. Yeah, it does. Any synthetic's going to get heavy. But if you're using a sink tip line and you know how to do a good roll cast, and you know how to do a good cast, I can throw this just as far as a dry fly. Easily just as far. Hope someone fights me on that. So again, I'm just going to double up the fibers. And since we're going to cut it, it doesn't need to be that long, right? So we can put this on the bottom. And we're putting this just right in front of the eye. And honestly, I don't care if a couple get trapped. I don't care which way they go back. I just want it to be evenly splayed out. And it's fine if it goes over the eye. Right back as far as I can get it. And so right there, I still have a little bit of hook eye. Now I could totally just quit right there and be good. And I probably should, but I'm not going to. But here's the thing. If you're new to fly tying, one of the worst things you can do is pack the eye of the hook. With that being said, when you're packing wool, deer hair, anything like that, and especially if you're going to cut it down like I am, the more you can pack, the better. So I'm just going to kind of put it on there sideways. And just kind of, even if I need to get my tool here, I'm just going to push it back. Any way it'll go. I don't care. I just want it in there. pack it, keep grabbing back. There we go. That's about perfect right there. I'm just doing that. Oh, there goes a bunch of hooks. Now on these, I will never do more than a 3-turn whip finish. Just 3 turns. Kind of nice and easy. Probably a little more pressure at a time. It's going to pull it tight, taut. And then I'll do another one. 1, 2. Again, pull it tight. And on this one, usually I'll break it. I know it's as tight as it can go. Now, let me get all this crap out of the way because I'm about to get to cutting. And the cool thing about this sculpting wool is you can just throw it back in there any way you can. Oh, forgot. Our legs, we want those the same length as the, we do not want it going further than the marabou. So I'm going to grab these and just cut. Sheesh. I have a love-hate relationship with marabou. All right, now first thing I do is find my eyes. All right, we're gonna find our eyes. There it is. Hope it works for you as well as it worked for me.